24 in the name of Deputy Seán Crowe. 30 seconds to introduce.
Minister, last week I met with a representative of the People's Democratic Party, the HDP, to discuss the political repression the party is facing in Turkey, as well as the Turkish government's severe violation of international human rights law. I had planned to meet with HDP MP Faysal Sariyildiz, but he's currently stranded in Brussels because his passport was revoked by the Turkish authorities. Minister, are you aware of the case and the arrests of the 11 MPs from his party?
Thank you. Minister, 2 minutes.
Thank you, Seán Crowe. I've repeatedly stated my serious concerns about the deteriorating situation in Turkey, including the impact on the lives of the Kurdish population. The increasing tensions in the southeast of the country are deeply troubling. I'm also gravely concerned at the mounting threat to civil society by breaches of human rights and democratic norms. On the 4th of November, I issued a statement in which I explicitly expressed my concern at the arrest of the co-chairs and other democratically elected members of the pro-Kurdish HDP party in the early hours of the 4th of November. The arrest of these parliamentarians was made possible by the lifting of parliamentary immunity from some 130 members of the Turkish Assembly in May of this year. Ireland shares the view of the European Union that parliamentary immunity must be applied equally to all members of Parliament. I'm aware of the specific case to which the Deputy refers. Officials of my department met with members of the HDP last week. I know that several members of the House also had the opportunity of meeting with the delegation. The HDP representatives presented a most stark case, in particular on the circumstances surrounding the detention of the democratically elected representatives from Kurdish areas and the restrictions on the Kurdish media, as well as the deteriorating security situation in the southeast of Turkey in particular. They also detailed the circumstances of the individual in question, highlighted his concerns about the very negative trends that we are seeing in Turkey. I've repeatedly called for a return to dialogue to allow the political process to resolve the Kurdish issue to resume. In a strong statement issued on the 8th of November, the European Union was critical of Turkey's recent actions and the direction of the recent developments, called again on Turkey to resume political dialogue to resolve the Kurdish situation.
Oh my God, 1 minute, Deputy.
HDP is the third largest party in the Turkish Parliament. But I was to meet Faysal last week. He was travelling around different European capitals. I think he was to meet with Féin, Fianna Fáil, parties in the House anyway. They were looking to meet with anyway. He didn't arrive because his passport was revoked. But the worrying thing about this case was he was actually travelling around the European capitals detailing the mass killings of Kurdish civilians by the Turkish military in his home city of Caesarea. The cancelling was part of seemed to be a crude attempt to silence that work. The Turkish security forces sealed off Caesarea. They denied access to food, water. There was 120 people killed, and people compared it to Kobani after the attack by Daesh. So what I'm asking really is that what can the Irish government do in relation? I hear what you're saying in relation to what's been happening in Europe, but what can we do as an independent country in relation to this matter?
Can I say by way of direct response that I have repeatedly called for a return to dialogue to allow the political process to resolve the issue, to resume. Indeed, my colleague Minister Darren Murphy also emphasised this issue during the extensive debate on Turkey, which took place at the Foreign Affairs Council on the 14th of November. I've also clearly stated Ireland's position at the Foreign Affairs Council and indeed at the Council of Europe, where I had the opportunity of engaging directly with the Turkish Foreign Minister. The European Commission's annual report on Turkey, published on the 9th of November, is critical of Turkey on the core issues of rule of law and fundamental rights, including minority rights. I share that concern. Ministers will discuss the report at the December meeting of the EU General Affairs Council. The European Union is currently considering how best to influence Turkey to encourage a commitment to the return to democratic norms and respect for fundamental freedoms. Ireland believes it's important to keep open the lines of communication with Turkey in order to ensure that the situation can be influenced for the positive.
was a witness to the mass killings of civilians and a gross human rights violation. That's the work. He was travelling around to people, telling people what was actually happening. So, Minister, I'm asking you, first of all, can you raise the issue of his arrest, or is it revoking of his passport with the Turkish Foreign Minister? He's not the only one that's been put in this position. I've said about the 11 MPs. Will you call for their release? Because again, we're talking about people who were doing the work they were elected to do. Another worrying development is AKP, the Turkish government party. Trustees are being appointed to run the municipality, and all powers are being transferred to them. Minister, in the wider community, we're getting detailed reports that build up of aggressive rhetoric against Kurdish population and representatives. What I'm worried about is that the next step is some type it's going to be a civil war in Turkey. And if this repression continues. So I'm asking you to raise wherever you can the issue of these arrests of these parliamentarians, and particularly the revoking of the passport of Faysal.
I would be happy to ask Seán Crowe to raise the particular issue as mentioned by the Deputy. I'm scheduled to meet with the Council of Europe Commissioner for Human Rights, Mr. Muzniks, tomorrow. I discussed with him his views on the pathway forward in terms of commitments already made to Turkey as a member of the Council of Europe, and I would be happy to assure the House, Seán Crowe, that I will continue to raise these issues as I have been doing at every opportunity, particularly since the July attempted coup in Turkey, and I would be pleased to keep the House fully informed of developments as they occur.
Okay, Deputy Crowe.
Thank you for the reply. I think the HDP party are victims of their own success in that they reach a certain threshold within the Turkish parliamentary system, and they've been targeted ever since. And that's the reality that's happening. We don't have a democracy in Turkey. We clearly have a one-party state, and unfortunately the Kurds are at the front line of the attacks in relation to that.
Time is expired now. Thank you. The next is